Hi, 9th and 10th grade. It's time for literature again. So make sure you have your literature books, Futility by Wilford Owen. It's going to be on page 308 and 309 of our literature book. And so we're going to talk about this poem. This is the second poem. We're comparing this one to Sir Walter Scott's that we talked about earlier in the Al and Adele Robin Hood type poem. And this is going to be totally opposite in theme and in feel. Who was Wilford Owen? Wilford Owen was born in Britain. He was born in the early 1900s, and he always wanted to be a poet, but he didn't have formal education. So he went to France to see what he could learn there, but while he was there, World War I broke out. So he joined the army as a British soldier, and he fought in France. He wrote poetry that laments the brutality and unnecessary costs of World War I. Lament means it's a mournful dirge, it's a cry, it's a song of upset. He's upset, he's worried, he doesn't like World War I, and so he wrote about it. He was diagnosed with shell shock and sent home in 1917. And while he was home in his hospital stay, he saw some poets, and he met some people there that helped him with his poetry and helped him later to become published. He became the voice for the generation scarred by war, but his poetry relates universal truths about humanity's condition, meaning you and me who have never been to war, we don't know what war is totally like, we can't experience war, but we can understand what he's talking about and to some degree because we're human. After he returned to duty in 1918, which was common then, he was awarded the Military Cross for bravery, but sadly he died in November 4th. 7 days before the end of the war. Remember, World War I ended on November 11th at 11 a.m. And so he didn't quite make it to the end. He died shortly before it ended. However, in 1920, they did publish his poem, and it's in a book called Poems of Wilford Owen. So, Futility was written in this background, and as you can see and remember and think on, the British society approached World War I with idealism. They were, let's go, war, yes, war, we can win it. But the soldiers were faced with horrible conditions and often senseless destruction of trench warfare, and it quickly dispelled this idealism, and they became what we call disillusioned. They were unhappy with the war because they saw the results of what it did. Yet many citizens and officials still lauded the glory of war, and so there was a divide in the British society and in the world at large of these two groups. People who lauded the glory of war and get all the glory and have parades and all these things, and then the others who actually were in the war and were the ones who were maimed and killed by it. And many times people who were diagnosed with shell shock at this time were looked down upon. They looked as weak, as if they couldn't handle it. And they were dishonored at home. And so many kept quiet, but not Wilford Owen. He wrote about his experiences. Now, as we read this poem on page 308, Futility, we're going to look for a couple things. You're going to be asked to identify a couple things. Personification, remember what that is? If you can't remember, look back in your notes. We're going to be asked to talk about, see if you could find some slant rhyme. Words that are similar but have mismatched sounds. They have a consonant or something in them the same, but they really don't sound alike at all. Remember assonance and consonants, okay? These have to do with vowels. Assonance is the vowels, and consonants is consonants. Look back if you can't remember what they are. I rhyme are words that look the same. They're spelled alike. You would think that they're going to rhyme, but they don't. They sound totally different, and it's just like it fakes you out. Like cough and bow, we learned in the previous exercise. So that's I rhyme. Look for some words that you would consider I rhyme. Also, alliteration. Remember what that is? If you don't, look back in your notes from the Allendale poem. All right, let's read Futility now. You can follow along on this, or you can look in your book and see what he's talking about. Move him into the sun. Gently its touch woke him once. At home, whisperings of fields unsown. Always it woke him, even in France, until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clays of a cold star. Our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerves still warm, too hard to stir? Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all. So what's Wilford Owen saying in this poem? Well, if you look at the first 3 lines, move him into the sun, gently its touch awoke him once, at home whispering fields unsown. Here we see the boy at home. We know it's a man because of the him pronoun. He's at home when things were normal. And what's happening? He's asleep outside and the sun is wakening him. And things were calm. This is peacetime. But now, always it woke him, even in France. So now he's in France. What's he doing in France? Well, he's a soldier, so he's in France. Until this morning, until this snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. All right, so the sun, the light woke him up at home in peace, and now it's on him again in France. But is he waking up? Let's find out. Think how it wakes the seeds in the second stanza. What's the sun do to seeds? It wakes them up. Woke once the clays of a cold star. He's referring to us, the human, the boy, the soldier, as a clay vessel, earthen. And that's what we are. We're clay. Our limbs so dear achieved, our sides full nerve, still warm, too hard to stir. Why can't he wake up? Why is the sun not waking him up now? What do you think the answer is? Was it for this the clay grew tall? Is this why we grow kids? Is this why we have kids? Send them off to war? Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break earth's sleep at all? Why even wake us up at all? And so Wilford Owen is asking some pointed questions. He's saying, why? And so we're going to be prepared to answer this question. What do you think the worldview of Wilford Owen is? From what we see in this poem, and as you read it again more slowly and more carefully, can you tell what his worldview might possibly be? And we're going to talk about scriptural application of this poem. Here's some verses. And it's okay to question. Look at Psalms 10, Psalm 22, and Psalm 42. The psalmist is questioning God. Why is this happening? What is going on? But just like the psalmist, we as Christians and as kids who don't, and adults and just people in general who don't know the answers, why is this happening? Why is this going on? We have to look to Scripture to find our answers. And so you might be asked to compare and contrast one of these passages with this poem and to see how they interchange and relate to each other. So this is your assignment for this next time. Watch this video, what you're doing. Read the poem again by yourself. I'm going to upload the worksheet. Look at it, fill it out, send it back to me, and do it all by Friday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. And as always, find me, text me, email me, Snapchat me, Instagram me, whatever you got to do to get in touch with me to ask your questions. I'm here for you kids. I miss you all. I hope you're having a good time at home. I understand the distractions that are there for the school, but try to get your work done and try to pay attention to the details and read this poem over in light of these scriptures, and we'll see what we see when we talk about it next. Have a nice day.